Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Sean and Harrison again tonight. How we doing, fellas?
Good
Go
evening,
boys.
boys.
Good, good. All right, before we get cranking, make sure you like, subscribe, share, all of that on Facebook. Um, we are also on Spotify, finally on Apple Podcast. Yeah, sorry, Scott, we got a 9-minute
Sorry,
delay
we
here.
were watching this 3-run home run and we started going on the WBC, and it's sorry.
Yeah. I mean, man, we'll just jump right into it. Okay. Let's start with the game going on right now. Japan and Mexico. This Mexico team is not going away. As we just saw, Urias just with a 3-run shot off Sasaki. Thought so far.
Yeah, thought so far is that ball was mushed, and Japan's not out of it, fellas. They average 9 runs a game.
Yeah.
They average 9. Now, granted, they're playing some weaker competitions in the earlier rounds. Like I get that, but they average 9 runs a game. Before today, they've given up 9 runs total, so that's 12 runs total that they've given up the whole tournament. They'll be fine. Patrick Sandoval is doing a good job keeping them off balance, I think. Certainly, you can tell that one pitcher has pitched at this level of competition before, and one pitcher has struggled. Well, not struggled, but just doesn't have the experience pitching at this level before.
Which is funny because I wouldn't picture an Angels pitcher pitching at that level before. But, I got what you're saying.
I mean, the major league hitters. But yeah, look, the Sasaki kid is disgustingly gross. I mean, the stuff is there. I think he's been overthrown a little bit. He's gotten away with a couple of hanging splitters, one not so much. But the stuff, the guy, he's thrown one fastball that's been under 100 miles an hour. Everything else is 100 or higher for fastballs.
Yeah. Crazy.
The splitter has just insane movement. I don't even know if he's thrown a slider yet. I think he's literally just been fastball splitter. Maybe he's thrown like 1 or 2 sliders. Like, he's got the stuff. He's just got to kind of rein it in a little bit. I don't know. I don't know when the Japanese season starts. Like, are they like us? Like, they start the same time Major League Baseball starts?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
I'm only thinking that because, like, is this kid going to throw 85 pitches? Or, like, does he have, like, next week, is he going home to a season that's starting?
Right.
So I just, I don't know how they're going to handle him. He's already at 50-something pitches now. Or maybe I think he might even be in the 60 now at the end of the inning. So, we may only see him for one more inning. I don't know. But I guess that's me rambling. Mexico is the team that all three of us said when the rosters came out before this whole tournament even started, like, watch out for the Mexico team because they're talented and they can hit. We weren't sure about the pitching, but boy, could they, get guys on base and hit. And they've been doing that. So I'm not totally shocked by it. But let's not count this Japanese team out yet.
Opening day is March 30th for the Nippon Baseball League. So
same as us.
I was pretty sure their season was the same, but what I find impressive tonight, Japan's got 1 hit in 3 innings, which is not like them.
And it was Yoshida.
Talented team. Right. Oh yeah. And honestly, like, he was the guy that I was looking out for. He's been fun to watch.
He has.
He is definitely maybe even better than advertised.
Fellas, just real quick on him. This is what happens when we get on tangents. He may not strike out. He may go a whole month at a time without striking out Major League Baseball. All he does is put the bat on the ball. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Any pitch, anywhere in the zone, like, it's super impressive.
And obnoxiously so. Like, he doesn't look like he gets fooled.
Yeah, right.
Like, at all. So, but I think, as you said, Sean, when the rosters came out, we looked at Mexico and went, wow, that's actually a pretty good team. And honestly, we all thought the Dominican Republic would be in the game last night with Team USA.
Most certainly.
They fell flat on their faces and finished 2-2, and they were gone. Mexico turned out to be that team that was super balanced, that allowed them to really kind of roll through pool play. And, they're competitive against Japan tonight. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this game ends up.
Yeah. Before we move on to, like, U.S., Venezuela, and all that stuff, they were talking earlier in the game about Sasaki coming over to the MLB, but he has to fulfill a certain amount of years in the Japan Baseball League first, right? Do you guys know the stipulations on that? Or, like, do they have to play, like, a certain amount of years and then they can ask for a posting fee? I was looking at it and it was just, like, confusing and way over my head. I didn't quite get it because it's like it depends on their contract, and then it's a certain percentage of their contract would be their posting fee, and then their contract
so-
on top of that. But I don't know
so-
when they're eligible for the posting fee.
Yeah, so they have to. There's something like 8 or 9 years they have to have of like full like professional status. So
yeah, so it's 9. They have to have 9 years professional experience to gain international free agency.
So how did Ohtani come over when he was 22, 23?
So let me see. Let me look this up here.
Right? Because there's no way he had 9 years of professional
Oh,
baseball
so
experience.
no, okay. So 9. If it's 9 years, you don't.
You don't need a posting fee.
Hold on. Sorry. So it says players from Japan's top league, the NPB, who do not have the requisite 9 years of professional experience to gain.
Right.
So why would it
Yeah,
post? So why would it post this and not give me the whole definition? That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so the way it works is if you have 9 years of service in the Japanese baseball league, you're an international free agent. You're a free agent to go anywhere.
Gotcha.
Before 9 years, you can request to be posted.
Gotcha. Okay.
At which case, once you're posted, now there's a release fee, and then the release fee is determined based on the size of the contract. So it's a percentage
Gotcha.
sliding scale. As the contract gets bigger, the percentage comes down a little bit. So an example would be if you sign a major league contract with a value of $100 million, the Japanese team would receive roughly $17 million of that as a posting fee. So basically, 100 million becomes 117 to come over, because that posting fee goes to the Japanese team that let him go, or is letting him go. So after 9 years, no posting fee. Boom. You're an international free agent, sign anywhere you want. Inside of 9 years, you go through the posting process. You pay the team pays a percentage of your contract back to the Japanese team, effectively to buy your rights.
Okay. So
right, which is why the Daisuke one, like back in the day, was such an expensive one, because that like broke the record for the biggest posting fee and all that. Okay.
Yeah, and they paid an insane amount of money.
Yeah,
that was
did.
like, and Yoshida was in the same boat. He was I can't remember how many years he had, but he was well inside of the 9. And the Red Sox paid his posting fee.
Okay. So I wasn't far off, but it was just the way it was laid out was like a little confusing to me. But I knew it had to do something with the 9 years and the percentage.
So to keep it really simple, after 9 years, you can go anywhere you want.
As long as the team accepts you to be posted, right? The team that has the
no.
So after 9 years, you're an international free agent. You can go anywhere you want. Period.
Right.
There's no posting fee. Right. There's no requirement.
I meant before
inside of 9 years, you have to request to be posted. They have to agree to post you, and then you have to pay the fee.
Yeah. Does the team have the right to be like, yeah, no, we're not posting you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fair enough.
They can say no.
Okay. All right.
Honestly, some of these teams do it because it's a great way to throw a bunch of money back in the till and go find other young players.
Yeah.
It's like the Oakland A's. We'll just sell off our players and start over.
Yep. All right. So let's move on to the U.S. and Venezuela first. Trey Turner, man. My goodness. Let's just start with this guy.
Good Lord.
My God. I think the announcer last night hit the nail on the head when he's like, listen, when you hit 9th in this lineup, you're actually hitting cleanup, because there's always going to be somebody on base for you, right?
There's no break. There's no break in that lineup with Trey Turner hitting 9th.
No.
Well, so that was going to be my not my point, but that was going to be kind of my contribution to this part of the discussion. Was that what has stricken me probably the most, that Trey Turner is having a fantastic tournament, right? Obviously with the home runs, and not just the home runs, just the moonshots. They're not wall scrapers. They're absolute no doubters off the bat.
Bombs.
But even when it's not home runs, I mean, this guy's getting up with guys in scoring position almost every single at bat.
Yeah.
If he's not leading off an inning, he's getting up with guys on, which is just such an impressive thing for the way the rest of the lineup is hitting and moving guys along. Yeah. Like, even when the offense was kind of not banging on all cylinders in the group stage, Mookie had a slow start. Mike Trout, was pretty good, but Mookie was a bit slow. Goldschmidt was getting on base, but he wasn't really hitting. But guys just up and down. I mean, they were just finding ways to get on. It's the offense is now clicking. and
Yeah.
and you can see why Mark DeRosa and the guys that put the roster together were okay with not getting the best pitching. Like they were just like, fine, we'll score 14 runs. That we'll figure that out. Like they're so impressive.
Brian mentioned it. Brian mentioned you got a guy hitting ninth on a $300 million contract, and when they talked to Mark DeRosa before the whole thing started off, he said, look, we're going to bat Mookie leadoff. I talked to Trey, said he's going to hit ninth, and he was like, great, put me wherever you need me. Which is amazing to think a guy making $300 million is like bat ninth. Yeah, why not? I'll do it.
Yeah.
And it's worked out amazing for this team to have a guy at the bottom of the lineup that is either emptying the bases or resetting the table for those guys at the top who, I mean, except for Trout, who's been in maybe the longest drought of his life with one hit in his last 8 at bats, have been lighting it up.
Well, it's funny. I'll tell you, I think the best lineups, whether they're WBC lineups, Major League Baseball lineups, playoff World Series, whatever, the 9-hitter is a very important role. I mean, we've talked about it during last season, like while last season was going on. It's an additional. It's a number 2 leadoff hitter, is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, if you have the ability to extend the roster, extend the lineup, and really, there's no turnover from the bottom to the top. The best teams, the best lineups have really good 9-hitters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this USA roster is no different. It's so impressive.
Scott asked a good question. He's like, he knows the rules are different and the team's stacked, but does DeRosa deserve a look in the MLB as a manager?
I honestly, I would say from what I've seen, not yet. He's mishandled the bullpen a couple of times pretty badly.
And he got lucky in the Canada game. He was strapped. He was strapped, and if they didn't get that 10-run rule, he would have been screwed.
And they got lucky a little bit last night because he literally only had 3 arms to work with, and thankfully, Wainwright gave him 4, and then Mikolas was really good for a little while there. So I would say I think he's done some good things. I think he's also got a really good coaching staff. When Ken Griffey Jr. is your hitting coach, that certainly doesn't hurt.
Still hitting bombs.
Andy Pettit's your pitching coach. These are guys with massive credibility. But he has definitely mishandled some situations, a couple of them badly, but I think his day will come. I think he's going to get a shot.
Brian says over Dave Roberts. Fair.
Well, I mean, I'd put my son out there over Dave Roberts. Let's be serious.
I'll say this about Mark DeRosa. I think he, like, you look at a guy like, now granted, it's not apples to apples because Alex Cora was a bench coach in Houston.
Freaking Yoshida again.
Yeah, I know. The guy, I'm telling you, this guy's going to be ridiculous watching him every night just hit. He just puts the bat on the ball.
He's a friggin' hitting machine.
A guy like Mark DeRosa, you look at what Alex Cora did with Puerto Rico, and he had not managed before in Major League Baseball. Now, granted, he was a bench coach in Houston and all that, so it's not apples to apples. But he put his name out there as a guy that when he ran the clubhouse, the players loved him, the players respected him, and I think Mark DeRosa almost rubs me as that same kind of guy. Granted, he's a fantastic staff with Griffey and with Andy Pettit. But I could see a team reaching out to D-Row about a bench coach position and then kind of his coaching career taking off from that. Maybe not right away as a manager because, there's certainly some things he can clean up and learn from, no question. But a guy like him maybe getting into a clubhouse bench coach, I don't think it would take him too long because I think he does have I think it comes natural to him, like leading these guys. Like being a leader, being out front, being a voice for these guys. Like I think that part comes naturally to him. I mean, the guy played in the show for so many years. He knows what he's doing.
Right.
He knows the grind. He knows the ins and outs, the kind of the sacrifice they have to make. So all that stuff isn't new to him. So I guess my long answer to the question, I could certainly see it fairly soon.
Yeah. And I think similar to you look at DeRosa's career, he was only a starter for like a handful of seasons. He was always a utility guy. But he was a guy who was always in demand. Teams wanted him around because, like Cora, he was great in the clubhouse, veteran presence, great leadership on the field, kind of like having a coach out there. I think he's got the same reputation as a guy like Cora had when he was a player. And I think inevitably, if those guys want to be coaches, the opportunities are there. I think this has been great for him to show what he can do. He's obviously shown he's got, some tactical stuff to learn, but I think I agree with you, Sean. I think he'd be a great candidate to either go manage at AAA and run a whole club, or be a bench coach and tutor under somebody who could show him the ropes of actually managing that game late in it, because that's where he seems to struggle, is making those bullpen decisions, making those late game adjustments. But I think that comes with experience and being around somebody who's been there before.
But I
Oh,
also
for sure.
think I also think that he's mishandled the bullpen because it does have so many spring training implications on it, right? Like it's a lot harder than what a regular season looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like Harrison, you can only go out and pitch 65, but I can bring in Sean, but since he's a starting pitcher, I can't bring him in mid inning. I have to bring him in on a clean inning, which means if my first starter gets in trouble, I'm bringing in a reliever for 1 out, and then I'm, like he has so many stipulations from all these ball clubs that he has
Sure.
to follow. I think a regular season managing job, you don't necessarily. I mean, yes, you probably have those stipulations on some guys, but you don't have them on all of your arms on your pitching staff.
No, but like a
So-
great example was the game against can't remember, it wasn't Venezuela, it might have been the game before that. Where
Colombia.
Columbia,
yeah, I'm in Colombia, where whoever was out there, I can't remember who it was, was clearly struggling. He had nobody up in the pen. Like nobody. He had 3 relievers sitting in the pen waiting, nobody up. So
I think it.
No, that was
I
against
think it-
Venezuela, right?
I think
that's
it
right, it was
Wainwright.
Venezuela.
It
That's
was
right.
Wainwright in the first inning against Venezuela.
No. It was
No.
Daniel Bard.
Yeah,
It was
there you
when
go. It was
Daniel
Bard.
Bard
Thank
was
you.
struggling hard.
It was Bard. He had nobody up, like nobody prepared, nobody ready. So what happens is Bard now faces multiple guys he shouldn't have probably been facing, because clearly the guy had no control.
Yeah.
And the outlet here is always, if you have to pull a guy before he gets his pitches in for the day, you send him to the bullpen to finish what he needs to get done. But he had nobody. That was the second time in this tournament he's had nobody ready to go when a guy was struggling,
Yeah.
and they ended up leaving a guy out there too long. So I think that's not a restriction issue. That's I'm just not prepared. I don't know the next
Fair.
step.
That's fair.
You had a guy like Kendall Graveman sitting there, twiddling his thumbs. He could have easily been ready for you. And if you don't need him, great. He comes into a clean inning next inning.
Yeah.
If you do need him, he's ready to go. But that was the second time in this tournament he's had nobody
Agreed.
ready to go.
All right.
Agreed. But I think just my last piece on that. I think that's where you look at a guy like Alex Cora gained all that
100%.
experience being the bench coach.
Yep.
I don't even know, and I don't know if he wants to be a AAA manager by all means. But I mean, Dero to me he's a guy I could see that'll slide right into most organizations as a bench coach, fit right in pretty much any locker room. And if he's under the right manager, it won't take him long to learn. He's a baseball guy.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Well, then let's get into one of the best baseball games I have seen in a very, very long time, that U.S.-Venezuela game. Venezuela gets out of Pool D undefeated. U.S. gets out of Pool C kind of like iffy. I mean, like they were on the fence for a while. Like we didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. And then that Wednesday night we were talking about came along. They took care of business.
Yeah. Super Wednesday, because that was
Yep.
when both pools were decided.
Yeah, which was awesome. That didn't disappoint at all.
That was a fun night.
But man, US Venezuela, that game was unreal.
Yeah.
And then how much were we up by when we were up by 3, I think, when Bard came in and kind of gave it back.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
That was ugly. It was a total meltdown.
And but man, oh man, again, Trey Turner bails us out for his first home run and first of 3 in 2 days. But man, oh man, that game was out of control.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was a great game.
And honestly, it's one of those games like you see Lance Lynn as a starter, you kind of go, oh, all right. And but he was pretty good. He got through 4 innings and pitched pretty well. Daniel Bard came in and completely imploded. Poor Jose Altuve is out indefinitely with that thumb issue. And, again, I go back to, Bard shouldn't have been in the game at that point, because he was literally throwing shit to the backstop. He had no idea where it was going. I know Brian's throwing some shade at Altuve. He's not a fan of him, but, the thumb on the throwing hand is a big friggin' deal. And that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Even once it's healed, it's going to take him a while to get that strength back. So, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they fell behind, and Trey Turner had the swing of his life, and
My God.
put him back up on top, and they hung on to win. But that was definitely a bad back and forth. It was a boxing match. It was blow after blow after blow, and it was a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And the atmosphere of that ballpark was crazy.
Every single game has just been off the chain, like the noise, and like all the players are coming out and being like, even Mike Trout, who's like, I've played in 3 playoff games my entire life. He's like, I've never been in an atmosphere like this. And he's like, the fact that I said no in 2017 still haunts me to this day. You know, like it's just crazy.
But because one thing to point out too is you look at the 9th inning of that game. You know, Mark DeRosa rolls Ryan Presley out there. Talk about a guy who's been in some pressure games. That guy is cool as can be. He just went out there. He worked quick. I don't think they hit anything even remotely close to hard. And the inning was over. It was like bang, 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 done. And that guy was just as cool as could be because he's been in several big playoff moments, and it was nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that bottom of the 5th inning that Venezuela took the lead after the Daniel Bard debacle, I was like, oh God, here we go. Then they scored another one in the 7th. So they're up 7-5 at that point. Yep, 7-5. And I was like, man, we're in trouble. Because we looked kind of flat after that Daniel Bard outing, where it kind of took the wind out of everyone's sails.
Well,
and then, the bottom of the order gets up. Alonso gets that little blooper. And then Trey Turner just comes up and just knocks it into the Atlantic Ocean.
And we all played baseball. When you're playing the field behind a guy who's pitching like that, and there's nothing you can do. It's balls to the backstop. It's walks. It's hit batters. It just sucks the life out of the game because you're just standing there watching it happen. You can't do anything to stop it. And when they were panning around, showing some of the reactions of the ball players, you're like, Mookie Betts is out there just like playing with his glove. Like it was a complete debacle that inning, and completely swung the momentum back. And until that rally, Team USA didn't do anything for a couple of innings until they had that big, Trey Turner home run. They were pretty much dead.
Yeah, absolutely. So then let's move on to last night, U.S. Cuba. U.S. is the home team. Adam Wainwright gets the ball. He comes out in this first inning, this first half inning. We were like, what in the hell is happening? It was infield hit and then a dribbler down the first baseline that Wainwright was going to let go foul. And then last second decided, I'm still thinking that would have gone foul if he just let it go.
It looked like it was spinning foul.
Whatever. Yeah. But anyways, he picks it up. Next guy gets up, little check swing bleeder that he goes to turn 2 on, goes right underneath his glove.
Yeah.
And we got bases loaded, no outs to start the game, and we're just like, here we go.
Cuba's got the first 3 guys on base. They've hit the ball a total of like 120 feet. Right. And you're just like, oh my God, it's gonna be one of those nights.
And he got out of that with giving up one run.
One run, and it was a walk. It wasn't even. I wouldn't call it. They didn't earn it, but it was a walk in. It wasn't a hit. It wasn't.
Right.
I think the frustrating thing for me when I was watching that was, and we've talked about it with other United States pitchers in earlier games, he wasn't attacking them. Yeah. Now I know I know Wainwright's not, he doesn't pump upper 90s and all that, but you don't need to do that to attack hitters. It's a frame of mind, right? It's a way that you get on the mound and you attack them. You make them swing at your pitches, and he wasn't doing that. It wasn't an attack mindset. It was very like passive, very nibbly, very like try to live on the corners and make weak contact. I feel like he almost needed to have it like shaken out of him. And I thought the second, third, and fourth inning, he was much a different mindset. He's, he's going to throw soft stuff. That's what Adam Wainwright does.
Yeah.
But
his fastball is 86 to 88, and he still spins a nasty curve.
But you can do that. You can do that in an attacking mindset, and I thought he did that.
You can
through the second, through the fourth inning, and I thought he was much better.
But it's also easier to come out and do that when you have an inning like you do the first inning, and Mookie Betts gets up in the bottom of the first, rips a double down the line. Paul Goldschmidt hits a 2-run bomb. So then that kind of settles he's like, all right, I could have a shitty inning, and these guys are going to have my back. And oh my God, did they have his back, man? It was an absolute
shellacking.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
And let's be honest, coming off the Venezuela game, when you saw Cuba next, that Cuba team isn't great. and they escaped their pool. That was they were a massive underdog coming into that game, and Team USA should have spanked them around pretty good as they did. It was, I think Cuba's fun to watch. They've always played a fun style of baseball because
they've got some guys that can move.
Yeah,
man.
They're fast. The Cubans are fast and free swinging, and like they're always exciting to watch. But that was not a super deep team. That was not Cuba's best team, and them being there was kind of a surprise at all. So, not a surprise that when you looked up, you saw Team USA kind of putting it to them because they should have.
Did you see that they actually, after the loss, they actually had a player that defected?
Yeah.
I saw that the catcher.
Yeah.
Bullpen
he just
catcher.
didn't get on the plane. He never made it home.
Yeah.
Oh, was that?
Yeah,
was
he was
the bullpen catcher.
I love that even more. The bullpen catcher.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so great.
Brian asked an interesting question here in the chat. So did a lot of MLB clubs say no, or did a lot of pitchers opt out? It was kind of a combination of both. There were some MLB clubs that said no. There's some pitchers that said no thanks, and then there's one pitcher in particular, Clayton Kershaw, who tried to come, but they wouldn't insure his contract, so he couldn't play because of an injury, or his injury passed, I guess I'd put it. So I think that there's a lot of pitchers that just said no thanks.
Listen,
you've also got pitchers like Marcus Stroman, who pitched for a different team this time.
Right.
Right.
It was strange, but I think you had some clubs that said please don't go. Players that decided not to go, and then there were pitchers that tried to come and couldn't.
Listen.
So my feelings on that, though, going forward, the way this WBC has finally the world is captivated right now, right? Everyone's watching it. The fans are going nuts. The WBC is inching closer to that Soccer World Cup. Will it ever be Soccer World Cup? No. I mean, soccer is the global sport. But the popularity of the WBC this time around, I think we're going to see more U.S. pitchers next time in the next 4 years.
I doubt
join the team.
I doubt it, man. I
you don't think so?
I hope I'm wrong. I think I fully understand the argument that's going to come back at me, but just let me say this first, and then we can do it.
No.
The way that Edwin Diaz went out, I think is going to leave a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths for teams that are contenders. I think
Fair.
Should it matter? Probably not, because it's not like he blew out his elbow. It's not like he had a torn UCL. He was literally hopping up and down and had a major injury. That can happen anywhere. That could literally happen doing whatever you're doing. But
hell, Chris Sale missed most of the season from a bike accident.
Totally get it. But
let's be serious.
But the fact that it did happen at this event is going to leave a really bad taste in people's mouths when it comes to, oh boy. Okay. This is going to leave a really bad taste in the mouth of people who want to let their big time starters go pitch. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
Freaking Rosarina.
I know.
Jesus.
I know.
He is having a coming out party here. So there's a guy who's Cuban who didn't play for the Cuban team.
Not this time around. He played. His coming up party was 9 years ago when he was Rookie of the Year. But
for the first time.
For the first time. I look, Nick, at a guy like Shane McClanahan. I would love to see Shane McClanahan with the USA on his chest and pitching in a WBC final tomorrow night. But if I'm Tampa Bay, with Shane McClanahan's history of being injured, do I want Shane McClanahan to go stand on a mound? And I don't care if he throws 85 pitches as the limit. Some of those are going to be stress pitches. And you guys know there's a different kind of pitches. I don't need my guy throwing stress pitches in March. I just don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, I guess my argument with it, as I said, as it's becoming more popular, I believe more players are going to want to play.
Sure.
I mean, look at our lineup this year. That wasn't like that in 2017.
No way.
Right? I mean,
no.
These players are okay, they just had the time of their lives. I want to be a part of that. Right? Win or lose tomorrow night, whatever happens. And then you think of the World Cup in soccer. I know it's apples and oranges, but those players leave their respective teams for their country.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those guys get hurt too. It's kind of just, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's it's part of the game. Like, I mean, yes, Altuve got hurt in game. Diaz didn't. I mean, it happens. I mean, someone can slip on the cement coming out of the dugout and tear an ACL. I mean,
Oh, before we
can
went on, we
trip over
talked
the
about, you know,
first
Brandon
baseline.
Nimmo's slide in spring training. Like, he catches a spike and messes up his ankle and knee, and he's, you know, he's day to day, week to week. It's, you know, these fluky weird injuries are going to they happen in spring training even if they're not here. I think the issue you have is that you've got a lot of these pitchers who are, you look at how we manage pitchers nowadays. It's not like back in the days of guys like Roger Clemens and Randy Johnson were just, here's the ball, and when your arm falls off, I'll come get you. You know, these guys are on very strict pitch counts. They're off day programs. Like, these pitchers are protected and managed in a way like never before. I think you're going to have a.
Sure.
I do agree with you, Nick. I think more people will want to play as the WBC becomes a bigger deal, and the ratings this go around are insane. Like, the ratings are just insane. But I think a lot of players look at it as, you know, I've got a contractual obligation to this team. I've got programs to follow. I got things to do. I got routines I got to be part of. I got players I got to meet, you know, and I think guys look at it as WBC's cool and it'd be fun, but I got a job to do,
Well,
and I got a job that pays me
But
really
if
well.
they're going to be insured, I mean, like, I get the full career picture.
Yeah,
But if they're gonna be insured, if they get hurt, they're still gonna get their paycheck for a week and a half of baseball. I don't know. I see where you guys are coming from. I can see both sides of the argument, but depending on what happens here and seeing the amount of star
risk reward.
power,
I just
the
look
amount
at
of star
I look
power
at it
on every single team.
I look at it more from the owners in the front office of the major league teams. Like you look at like Kansas City. To me, it's a no-brainer for the Kansas City Royals front office to tell Bobby Witt Jr. to go. They want you to be on the team. Go. You're probably not going to play.
Singer,
He might. Yeah.
Pasquantino.
They might get. Well, Pasquantino was different. You knew he was going to play. Bobby Witt's not going to play. Bobby Witt.
Well, right, but you have three guys that have gone and gotten experience.
But it's not just that.
Elsewhere.
But it's not just that. Bobby Witt being around these guys. Bobby Witt spending 3 weeks being around Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Mookie Betts. Like, the list goes on, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
The experience in the locker room that he's going to get is worth it. So if I'm the owner, I go, you know what, Bobby?
Yep.
Go. We'll deal with your slump in April because you're not going to be ready to play in April because you haven't had an at-bat. Like, we'll deal with that because we're the Royals and we're not expecting to be good anyways. Like, that's fine. But if I'm an owner if I'm the Texas Rangers owner, I just committed a boatload of money to Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi and all this. Jacob deGrom, a guy that has history injuries, comes to me and says, this roster is stacked. I want to go win a World Baseball Classic. Like, they're not paying you. I'm paying you. Like, I just signed you to a big ticket. Like, you're the guy that can't stay healthy and you want to go waste some of those bullets in March. Like, why would I be okay with that? And it's selfish. I get that that's selfish, but like, it's a different mindset from the owners for pitchers and for position players. I truly to me, there's not much risk from letting a position player go over and play because to our point with Nimmo, like, you see what happened with Brandon Nimmo. That can happen in practice. That can happen in a spring training game, or that can happen in a WBC. Like, that is not much. For pitchers, though, it's just such a big risk. And for guys that are such big money guys, like, you might get one. I just don't see, like, 3 years from now, I see our lineup being stacked again. I don't see our pitching staff being much better.
No, you're gonna get those kind of edge guys.
Yeah.
Those, you know, the guys that, you know, they're not. You know, you look around. There's no aces there. You know, nobody sent their ace to this thing.
No, it's if anything, it's a guy that's trying to showcase what he has to maybe get himself a big contract because he's coming in on a contract.
Exactly.
Like, you know, stuff like that.
Right, and then you got a guy like Wainwright who wanted to do this one last time before he hangs it up. So, yeah, it's a cool story. But, you know, then you got great examples like Nick Martinez. You know, he goes to DeRosa, goes, "Am I going to pitching you?" He goes, "I'm not sure." He goes, "Well, then I'm leaving. See ya." And he's back at spring training with the Padres because he's not going to wait around and maybe not pitch. So, if you look at the Edwin Diaz situation, and, you know, the Mets, that contract's insured, Diaz gets paid, the Mets don't pay for it. Cool, everybody's happy financially. But if you're Steve Cohen, I built this team to win. He's a big piece of what we're trying to do. I've got a fan base I've got to appease. I can't have a guy like Diaz go down. Now, could he have been injured in spring training, jumping off the mound? Absolutely. He could have been hurt anywhere. But at least now you're controlling the circumstances of
Right.
it.
Right.
And that's the hard thing is you've got a fan base who's like, oh my God, our season's screwed. Edwin Diaz is hurt at the stupid WBC. And a guy like Cohen is like, yeah, it didn't cost me a nickel, but I got a fan base and a team I got to protect. So if I'm an owner, my position guys want to go. Yeah, okay. My top 2 or 3 pitchers want to go. No way in hell. I'm not signing off. Never.
Yeah,
I will wave the
mean,
flag from home, but I'm not sending any of my top pitchers.
So then my kind of counter argument to that is Gavin Lux is avoiding a tag in spring training and blows out his knee and he's done for the year. Like it happens. Like, yes, you have more of a chance because you're playing a higher baseball and you're used to a longer spring training before you're kicking it into high gear. I get all of that stuff. But like injuries can also happen in spring training. Like and major injuries can happen in spring training. And those aren't going to go away. Like that's just part of sports.
Absolutely.
And who's to say Edwin Diaz didn't already have a partial tear in his patella tendon before he came to WBC, and then he throws a couple max effort innings that he could have thrown in spring training, and he starts walking to the dugout and pops it then. Like
but I think the optics of it, Nick, are.
Oh, I get the optics. I get
if Edwin Diaz gets hurt at spring training, it's a spring training injury. If he gets hurt at WBC, we pushed him too early. And that's honestly the fan base sees it that way. If I'm a Mets fan, and I mean Sean can speak to it, that's a big blow. And he hurt himself, in an exhibition, which is kind of painful. And there are Mets fans who are freaking out and furious that he was even there.
Mets fans are ridiculous, and I'll tell you this: I think the
Mets fans are ridiculous.
The same Mets fans that
agreed.
The same Mets fans that are complaining that he was pitching at the World Baseball Classic are the same Mets fans that were cheering loud when the trumpets were playing for him to come in for his first appearance for Puerto Rico. So it's like you can't have it both ways. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like I loved that he was there. I think the guy's electric. I love watching him pitch, and it absolutely is devastating. It sucks, and it was awful to watch. And it sucks that he's going to be out for the whole year. But I'll tell you, the Mets are still damn good. Like, to sit there and think they're going to lose 100 games is outrageous. Right. Like, some of these Mets people be like, oh, there goes our season. We're going to lose 90 games. It's like, this guy wasn't going to save 90 wins. So, like, let's pump the brakes. Let's calm down.
But if you're not the Mets, if you're a team that's like middle of the pack and you lose a guy like Diaz, that could be your season.
Yeah.
I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but if losing one Edwin Diaz during a WBC grows the game exponentially, which I believe this WBC has, I'm as a fan and a fan of the game, I might be okay with that. The amount of attention the amount of attention the WBC has brought to baseball, has brought the average fan in. The games have been exciting. The atmosphere has been
electric,
out of control.
No question.
Like,
dude, like I would never.
Do I sacrifice an Edwin Diaz, like one Edwin Diaz at WBC? Like me, like yeah, like sorry. Like I mean, as weird as that sounds, like the popularity of the game is way more important than an Edwin Diaz $20 million season.
Buddy,
that's just me.
Buddy, no question. I hope you don't think I'm arguing on those points. Certainly not. I was just giving my point of view of being like, because what started this whole thing was next World Baseball Classic, I hope we see a lot of better pitchers. And my point is I just don't think we will, because
I don't think we will.
I
think owners are going to fight their best pitchers to stay because of what happened. But I agree with you.
Some of their aces are gone.
I would.
Julio Urias was there. He's probably the Dodgers' ace. I mean, besides Walker Buehler. But I mean, lately, the last couple of years, Urias has been their best pitcher. Sandoval's definitely the best pitcher for the Angels. He's going tonight.
Show it.
Otani's playing. He's pitching. He's hitting.
I'm not saying none. I'm not saying none. I'm just saying.
I know. I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying. I'd be surprised if we take the stud pitchers that were there this year. I would be surprised to see an increase next go around. That's all.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a simple risk reward thing.
Yeah.
If a guy gets hurt in spring training with you, at least he got hurt on your field, under your program, under your supervision, and that doesn't hurt as bad as the guy that got hurt in some exhibition game. I love the WBC. I think that Major League Baseball should be encouraging more participation. it's just going to be really hard to have these owners say, yeah, take my brand new Lamborghini and drive it down the highways as fast as you want. I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Like, they're just not going to want to do that. But that's why you're going to get these guys who are third, fourth, fifth starters on a team to come out. You're not going to get the aces. You know, Garrett Cole's not showing up. You know, you're not going to have guys like that come out and pitch. Well, no, I agree. Bad example, but like, you're not going to have pitchers of that level come out because the teams just aren't going to let them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think WBC has been great for baseball, and baseball should find a way to encourage these players and these owners to allow more of it to happen. Because I do agree, Nick, this is an investment in the game, and it's been a massive, wild success this go around. Yeah. I've never watched so much of my whole life as I have this go around because it's been really good baseball.
It's been awesome baseball.
Same. Yeah. All right, one more thing to touch on the WBC before we move on to our fifth inning. The Czech Republic, as this story just gets better and better.
I love those guys.
Better. Like, they're electricians, they're neurosurgeons, they're teachers,
they're social media managers. One guy imports baseball equipment.
So one of their pitchers on Czech Republic struck out Shohei Ohtani on an 80-mile-an-hour fastball, right? And Ohtani asked for an autographed jersey by the entire Czech Republic team, and he's shown with the pitcher that struck him out with the autographed jersey. Just thought that was really cool. And again, something that the WBC is embodying is, like, you know, the camaraderie between teams from different country and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I think you're missing what we're saying. World Cup, WBC is not paying the contracts either. It's just a matter of getting the contracts insured. So this is not a financial risk to anybody.
The Mets Diaz
is going to cost the Mets. Yeah, Diaz cost the Mets nothing this year. It's losing him for the season that hurts.
Right.
But there's no financial ramifications if these guys get hurt. Those contracts are insured.
Yeah.
Which brought us back to Kershaw, which is why he couldn't go, because the insurance company would not insure his contract.
They looked at that rundown body and went, nope.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, injury history, age, and they're like, no.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some miles on him.
And I guess
they want the 25-year-old kids out there, not the 35-year-old pitchers.
Theoretically, he still could have gone, but the Dodgers would have been on the hook if he got hurt. And so that's when the Dodgers were like, we're not going to let you go.
Yeah. Well, and what I find surprising is they insured Adam Wainwright. Granted, he hasn't had much of an injury history, but he's 40 years old, so.
Yeah. All right.
But I think Ken nailed it. You know, you've got some players here that are playing with pride.
Yeah.
And these South American teams and Central American teams, oh my goodness, are they intense. They love this.
Not just the players.
This is huge for them.
Dude, the Mexican fans, the Puerto Rican fans, they must be exhausted when they go to bed. All they do is jump around. They make so much noise. It's like I'm sitting at home on the couch and I'm watching them and I'm like, I am exhausted just watching them jump around for 9 innings. They have so much fun.
Man, it's just been crazy. Yeah. I just want the MLB to fold and just have the WBC for 162 games. How about that? Yeah. Can we just do that?
Could you imagine real quick if the U.S. team next year rolls out like this lineup and like 3 stud ace pitchers? I mean, that would be ridiculous to watch.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, let's move on to the fifth inning where we're going to preview AL Central.
Do we have to?
I mean, we don't have to, but I'm just going to give my rundown of how I think it's going to finish. I think the Twins are going to leapfrog the Guardians with the simple fact of getting Pablo Lopez. Yep. Yeah, Luis Arraez, as you've seen in this WBC, was an absolute monster.
He's been a beast.
That dude did not get out. My God. So I think it goes Twins, Guardians, White Sox, Royals, Tigers is how I have it finishing in the AL Central. Guardians got a little bit better with Josh Bell, the addition of Josh Bell. They finally got a little bit of pop in their lineup there behind Ramirez. And 2 switch hitters back-to-back. That's going to help.
Freaking Arozarena again. Sorry.
But no, it's fine. But Pablo Lopez coming to the Twins, I think, gives the Twins the 2 or 3 wins that they needed to leapfrog the Guardians down the stretch there.
Yeah, I mean, I get the same final standings. I think the Twins do leapfrog them. You know, you got Correa back. You know, Buxton, who might be healthy for 6 weeks. You know, you've added Joey Gallo and Max Kepler in the outfield. You got Christian Vasquez behind the plate because Gary Sanchez was a mess. You got a couple of young guys in and Jose Miranda, who you're going to see more time. Royce Lewis might be out there as a utility guy. You got Pablo Lopez. I think the Twins are deeper, and they've definitely improved in the offseason. So I see the Twins, the Guardians behind them. The Guardians, it's going to be all dependent upon how those young players continue to develop. If those young guys all come together again, they could win that division, but I think the Twins are better. After that, it's the White Sox.
I think Byron Buxton also has a career high of games in a season with 33.
Yeah, I mean it's a shame to see a guy that good spend so much time hurt. But
I'll tell you this:
it's Twins, Guardians, White Sox, and then you can pick them between the Tigers and Royals. They both suck.
So, I'm with you guys on the Twins winning it. I know this is probably going to be played back come September when the Guardians win this thing by 12 games, but I think the Twins do too. I like the additions. I love Lopez. I loved him in Miami. I think he's an underrated kind of guy. Like he reminds me as like a Carlos Rodon kind of guy who his last year in Chicago before he went to San Francisco, and he kind of he figured out how to pitch with his power stuff, and he just got a lot of swing and misses. Pedro Lopez reminds me of kind of that left-handed side. Like he just gets a lot of swings and misses, and that's going to play in that division. There's a lot of bats to swing and miss in that division, so that'll play. I like Chicago though. I like the White Sox. I think the White Sox are talented. For 2 years in a row, they've been the most disappointing team because they're the team.
They've been hurt.
They've been hurt, but they're the team on paper that just doesn't live up to what they should do. I think La Russa was a big part of that. I think getting rid of him was key. I think Pedro Grifol kind of coming in, brand new manager. I think he'll do all right. The talent is there. I don't know.
Agreed.
I don't think Grifol can make enough of a difference for them to win the division. But I think they could challenge Cleveland for second, and I think they could be challenging maybe a playoff spot as we kind of get into the bottom of the wild cards. And I'll make a prediction on the AL Central. Byron Buxton plays like a normal complete season, and he's top 3 in MVP voting.
I would not hate it. That means the guy's close to 40-40. I would not hate that.
If he plays 145 games, if he plays 140, he's easy 40-40.
Yeah.
With the way that the pitch clock and all that, that's going to reactivate the running game. We've talked about it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse with the pitch clock. If he plays a full season, which I think he will, 42, 43 home runs, 50 stolen bases, 55 stolen bases.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be top 3, top 2 MVP voting.
Yeah. Let's not forget that our boy Christian Vasquez is behind the plate for your Twinkies now. So let's not
Harrison
forget
mentioned that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Sanchez was a total bust out there, and Vasquez offers a lot of stability. But I like some what the White Sox have done. Losing Abreu blows a massive hole in the middle of that lineup. They've got no replacement for him. The pitching staff is I don't know what to make of it. I mean, Dylan Cease is filthy, and then you got a bunch of question marks after him. It's an interesting team. If some of these guys have bounce back seasons or perform well, it'll be an interesting team to watch. If most of these guys play to their average, I think they're going to finish in a really distant third and be another disappointment. But that is a team, to Sean's point, that's kind of teased you with talent for years, and they just have not put it together yet. I do think La Russa was a problem. Yeah. I do think they've had injuries. Moncada's taken longer to develop, I think they expected. But there's definitely some talent there for sure.
Eloy Jimenez was out for like the first 60 games of the season. He blew out his knee swinging in the batter's box.
Yep.
In spring training, so he was out.
They're outfielders. Yeah. I mean, they've got Jimenez, Sheets, and Roberts. The shortest guy in that group is 6'2", and they're all 220 plus.
And Benintendi. They added Benintendi this year, the biggest contract in White Sox history.
Yeah,
they got Benintendi.
He's a little fella compared to those other outfielders. There's some beasts out there.
Benintendi, Eloy, Luis Robert, Gavin Sheets. In the outfield, they got Moncada, Lurie Garcia, Elvis Andrus signed. I mean, Elvis Andrus isn't going to hit 300, but he's a reliable veteran. Tim Anderson's a stud. We know how we feel about Tim Anderson.
Yeah.
I think the problem is the White Sox aren't very deep, so they can't afford to have a big injury.
Yeah, you're starting a rookie at first base, and Andrew Vaughn, who's looks good, but he's 24 years old. Like, again, it's Yasmani Grandal, who gets on base but hits 0.85. it's it's an interesting team, but their pitching staff is loaded with guys who should be really good, and they've
Yes.
just yet to put it
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
like they've been the tease of MLB for years. Like all this young talent,
Agree.
Yeah,
Dylan
I
Cease
mean-
has panned out. Michael Kopech and all these guys.
Lucas
Lucas
Giolito.
Giolito.
Giolito's
like-
been good. They got Mike Clevenger
Yeah,
now on the
Clevenger.
roster. Mike Clevenger is due to have a kind of a
Yeah.
bounce back year, I think. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
going to win the Cy Young, but I mean he's healthy. He can throw.
It's a team
He's
that
talented.
it's a team
He's
that's
got
got
stuff.
talent. It's just
Yeah.
can they finally put it all together? It's a big question mark.
Just like the AL Central.
Well,
I mean, it's
honestly,
just
the AL Central,
par for the course.
we could be completely off. You could have the White Sox win it, and the Guardians could be trash. And if Correa and Buxton are hurt, the Twins are trash. Like
I mean, the
No-
only thing
none
we
of these
know,
teams
the
are
only thing we know is Detroit's not winning it. That's the only thing we do know.
right,
Right.
yeah. Detroit is
1000%.
Detroit and Kansas City are still a long way off. I would say Kansas City's farther ahead.
Oh,
but
and-
Detroit is a
Crazy.
disaster.
And it's crazy to say they are much farther ahead. That's a crazy thing to say, but it's true.
Yeah, I think the Twins are the deepest team, but that's you're still kind of wading into that pool. You can't even dive in. It's not that deep.
All right, let's move on to. So we'll do AL East next week, and that will be it for our previews. Maybe we'll start getting into our award previews coming up in the next couple of weeks. So, all right, seventh inning. We asked you guys best all-time left fielders and best left fielders right now. Who would like to take this as I'm pulling up? I think we had one response to this question. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
All time.
You said Nick go first or me go first?
You go ahead.
All right, so we're starting with all time.
Yep.
All right, all time. I got Ted Williams, who I think is the best player in baseball history. Period. And our bracket proved that out. I got Teddy Ballgame. I got and all the Ricky Henderson fans will be happy to see this. I got Ricky. There isn't a guy who might have been more balanced and more disruptive in baseball than Ricky Henderson. And then my third guy is Manny Ramirez, a guy that played adequate enough defense, but the guy could hit with the lights out.
Yep.
Yeah, I had Ted Williams. I think everyone's got to have Ted Williams.
I would hope so.
We'll give a little bit of variety. I'll put Yaz in there as well.
Love Yaz.
Fantastic. And then Barry Bonds. I mean, I know people don't like Barry Bonds. I know that Barry Bonds is probably the greatest baseball player, if not number one, number two. Because I do think Ted Williams is number one. Barry Bonds number two.
Otani's
Barry
number
Bonds
one
has
for
to be
me.
up there. Huh?
Otani's number one for
Stop.
Barry Bonds has to be up there.
MLB's Facebook page?
me. Yeah, I'm actually on it right now. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, Ted Williams and Barry Bonds to me are 1 and 1A. Who you want to put 1A, who you want to put 1B, it doesn't matter. I'll take them both, which I do. I have them both. And then I have arguably the best right-handed hitter of all time, Manny Ramirez, in my left field spot.
Is it arguably?
Those are my.
I don't know. I don't think it is.
I'd say he is. I mean, he's pretty firm to me, the best right-handed hitter of all time.
I never watched Jimmy Fox hit,
Fair.
so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Best right-handed
I don't
hitter
think
I've ever
Jimmy-
seen. Fair.
I will.
I think for sure.
Yeah,
you know,
I will say I didn't have Barry on my list. I also didn't have Pete Rose, and I struggle with not having Pete Rose on the
So
list.
crazy.
Pete Rose, I love him or hate him. He's all kinds of good and bad things. But when you think about that guy, there's nobody who played harder, hustled more, hit more. I mean, the guy was an absolute machine, but I just, because of who he was, I had a tough time putting him on there. Same with Bonds.
The coolest exhibit when I went to the Reds game this summer and I walked around the Hall of Fame during the rain delay, they had the 4,296 or whatever it was baseballs on the wall
Oh God.
all the way up, dude. So you just take a staircase all the way up and it's like 3 floors and it's just baseballs all the way
That's
up. the
amazing.
That's pretty
wall.
neat.
It's insane. It was really
So
cool.
many hits.
I took pictures of it, but it was nuts. Jim Britt said Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, Ricky Henderson. So I mean, between the 3 of us, the 4 of us, I mean, even Brian says Ricky, Ted, and Barry. like we've covered all of the guys. Like we've just cycled through them a little bit.
The top 5 or
differently,
6 were all present.
Yeah. Current players, Jim Britt says Yordan Alvarez, Juan Soto, Kyle Schwarber. Kind of hard to argue against those.
2 of them absolutely dog shit fielders, and one of them is kind of a right fielder, but also plays left field, I guess. Left field's not very deep.
Yeah.
Left field in today's major league game, it's not a super deep, and I'm not knocking on that person by any stretch. But Yelich, I'm a Yelich I love.
Gallo?
Can't stay healthy.
Okay,
but I love Yelich.
thank you for laughing, Brian.
Exactly.
I was going to say, what?
Hey, he's a Gold Glover.
I expect a better take out of Brian than that. I'm just saying.
Joey Gallo's a Gold Glover.
He's got a couple.
I know he is. It's embarrassing.
I will say this. I think his defensive metrics are better than we give him credit for.
His defensive metrics they're good. They're not great, but they are good.
I like Benintendi. I mean, I know I just kind of gave a ball washing to the White Sox, but I like Benintendi out in left field. Just talking, Yordan. I mean, Yordan's listed as a left fielder. He's a DH. I mean, he doesn't really play left field.
He's a horrendous left fielder.
As far as left fielders are, he's fine.
We know. Thanks, Brian.
It's all good.
I don't know. You guys get today's game.
I got Schwarber and Alvarez, but my third is Randy Arozarena.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of
the guy's made 2 stupid catches
right
tonight.
on cue. Right on cue.
Yeah, he's a pretty dynamic guy. But
I mean, it's been insane. I mean, after his 3rd playoff run, he goes and wins Rookie of the Year in his 4th year. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But I think he's got speed. He's aggressive. His fielding is there. He's got a ton of pop when he's on. He's hard to get out. I think
he's an exciting, passionate guy too. Like he just gets into
absolutely.
It. All right, my 3. I've got Yordan Alvarez too. Again, horrendous fielder, but man, the guy can hit. I got Stephen Kwan, who was a massive table setter for the Guardians. The guy, high contact, good speed, good defender. Kind of one of the few, I'd say, kind of true leadoff hitters left in baseball. And then I also had Ian Happ in Chicago. Just a super balanced guy, good OBP, decent batting average, decent amount of pop. He's still young. He's only been in the league 6 years, only 27. He came up when he was 21, turning 22. But I think a guy who offers a lot of skills in that position to a team that I think he's become very much a core piece of.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
I do like to, some guys we didn't mention, like Lourdes Gurriel, I like. Dalton Varsho, Dalton Varsho can play. Like, would I put him as a top left fielder? No, probably not yet. I mean,
defensively, you could. The guys
defensively, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Defensively, it's fantastic.
Yep.
He's versatile. He can play all the outfield positions. I know even he caught a couple of games for Arizona.
He actually came up as a catcher. And then
he did, yeah.
He got moved to the outfield.
So that guy kind of, he'll give you some highlights defensively.
But we're going to see him every day, and he's in the AL East now. He's with Toronto.
Yeah, he's in. So. They switched him. Yeah. I don't know. Left field, I think, is intriguing this, in today's game, because there's some good young, athletic, good defensive left fielders. You don't really have that kind of that mold that you had when we were growing up with, the big power hitting left fielders with Manny and with Barry Bonds and guys like that.
Yeah.
But you got some pretty good athletes out there now, so
yeah,
they're fun to watch.
Well, and I don't consider Soto a left fielder because he's played a lot of right field lately, but he goes back and forth. One guy we didn't mention, Taylor Ward from the Angels, is a really dynamic, very young player. Tyler O'Neill in St. Louis. For the longest time, Michael Brantley in Houston was considered to be the premier left fielder, high batting average, good base running instincts, really good defense. And then your guy in Chicago, Jimenez, Eloy Jimenez is another guy who, he's a big dude. He's got some skills for a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love your pick of Stephen Kwan. I mean, that kid came on and just made an absolute beast of a year in his rookie year. I mean, he's not going to beat out Julio Rodriguez for rookie of the year, but
No.
he deserved consideration for sure. He had a great season.
Yeah, and I think he really is one of the few true leadoff hitters left in baseball. He's high contact, high OBP, good speed, like a table setter.
Yeah,
you got guys like Mookie Betts hitting leadoff. He's not a leadoff hitter. He's a 3 hitter that's hitting in the one spot. For a lot of teams, Mookie Betts is hitting in the middle of the lineup, but I think for true leadoff hitters, there's not a lot of them. Stephen Kwan is definitely one of the better.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think. I mean, I guess we get on. We don't want to get on too much of a tangent here, but I think I don't necessarily have a problem with the way the game is shifting towards different kinds of leadoff hitters, like a Mookie Betts kind of guy. Like Mookie sees a lot of pitches.
He does,
and Mookie makes pitchers work. And typically, by the end of a Mookie Betts at bat, a pitcher will have thrown all of his pitches, and that's kind of what you want, right? Like you want, by the time Mookie's at bat is over, you want the rest of the dugout, the rest of that lineup to say, okay, this is what he's got. Like this is what he's throwing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's not a huge, not like this high on base guy that we have come to associate with, but he makes up for it with the power, makes up for it with the RBIs, and if you have yourself a good enough, lineup where Mookie gets up 3 out of the 4 times he gets up, there's guys on base. I mean, it makes up for the fact. I think guys like that are becoming very valuable leadoff hitters.
Well, it's like a guy like Schwarber hit leadoff for, he did it for the Red Sox. He did it for other teams too. And it is baseball's going to putting a guy in the leadoff spot that they want to get more at bats for, but B, who's going to see a lot of pitches and show that. And that's why I call Stephen Kwan your kind of prototypical leadoff hitter, because he is a guy that's up there to get on base, wreak havoc, set the table. A guy like Schwarber's up there to see pitches and maybe run into one.
Right.
Same with Mookie. Mookie's not going to go up there looking for a walk. He's trying to hit, but he's gonna make them throw a lot of pitches and make them earn
just different philosophy.
Get. Totally.
Sure.
Yeah. Totally. And I think the lineups are not set up the way they used to be.
Agreed.
All right, we're gonna move on to rounding third question, where I threw out who are your top favorite talent. Nothing to do with stats, just who are your top 5. We had a lot of answers for this one. Nick Fanning, we said Derek Jeter, Brian Wilson, Mike Napoli, Ichiro Suzuki, and Mike the Pizza Man Piazza. So, I mean, he has honorable mentions too, but you can check the Facebook page if you want to see those. Henry LaRose said Ken Griffey Jr., Trot Nixon, Mookie Betts, Ichiro Suzuki, and David Big Papi Ortiz. We got Christopher Buckner says Chipper Jones, Larry, Mike Trout, Trot Nixon, Jim Edmonds, Greg Maddux. I mean, these lists, you can't argue with any of them.
No.
But Brian did position players and starters. I'm only going to do position players because you only get 5. Derek Jeter, Darryl Strawberry, Kenny Lofton, Ivan Rodriguez, Keith Hernandez. This one's
Darryl Strawberry was awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ken's are cool because they're a little bit of before our generation.
Sure.
So he says Nolan Ryan, Johnny Bench, Reggie Jackson, Bob Gibson, Dave Kingman.
Dave Kingman. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. I think I've brought it up before, but MLB Network did they counted down the 20 greatest games of all time. And Dave Kingman went it was 6 for 6 at Wrigley. The wind was blowing out at 30 miles an hour. The final score was 23-22 or something like that. And he was hitting just moonshots into the neighborhood, dude. They didn't even have a chance to stay in Wrigley, but it was just it was so cool. Ben Goodwin, I played baseball with him in high school. He says his
So he played what you watched from the bench?
No, I actually caught him and then he caught me. So he has Cal Ripken Jr., David Ortiz, Nomar Garcia-Parra, Dustin Pedroia, and Nick Arno are his top 5. So I was like,
oh, that's awesome.
But then I commented, I go, heard that Nick Arno guy was pretty good back in the day. Pretty sure I spent a lot of time watching that Goodwin Arno tandem. But
oh god,
yeah, Yeah, it was pretty cool. Who are your top 5, fellas?
Whew.
Go, Sean.
Nomar. Nomar, growing up, like as a kid, like Nomar was my favorite player.
Yeah.
So Nomar, Pedro. Pedro was one. Pedro was must watch TV. Got to tune in and watch Pedro. Thank you very much. Got to love Nomar. Love Nomar. Nomar, Pedro. Just so many guys. I mean, I
know.
could literally do. I could
It's
do a
hard to
Brian
pare it
thing.
down.
I could do a Brian thing where it's like 5 position players, 5 pitchers.
Oh, absolutely, easily. Mrs.
You know,
Van was amazing.
I don't know who one of the comments said Trot Nixon. Trot Nixon was fantastic.
It was
Love
so
Trot.
good.
I mean, the
Dirt
guy's
dog.
uniform was always dirty. It's like
Yeah.
just dove run for no reason. Just
The original
dirty
dirt
all
dog.
the time. Pedroia for that sense. I mean, I know I'm listening to all Red Sox here. David Wright, Jose Reyes. I mean, how long do I got?
I
here?
could just keep
Yeah,
going. I mean, there's so
I
many.
know. I mean, it's so,
Yeah. All right, Harrison, yours.
So, like Sean, it was hard to narrow it down to 5, but for me, number 1 was Nomar. I was a Nomar fanatic.
Yeah.
I still have the official jersey up in my closet. I got Nomar stuff all over my little office here. So I'm always a big fan of Nomar. Ted Williams, I read his book when I was in Little League, and then continued to read it like year after year because I just enjoyed the hell out of his book on hitting, and got so much from it. Ken Griffey Jr., I feel like our generation, he is like the
Griffey's
guy.
1,000%.
The backwards hat hitting bombs. So for me,
Again,
Junior was
of
a
course
big
he
one. David Ortiz, obviously, for what he did with the Red Sox. And then the 5th one was a struggle. There were so many guys I could have put in that 5th spot. And honestly, I lean towards guys like Jeter, Clemens, guys that I just enjoyed watching, guys I tried to model myself after. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Jeter because I think when it comes to, in terms of leadership and consistency and showing up every day, Jeter's a big one. Cal Ripken was a big one. But so that's my 5.
You know who's a
It was
guy
hard
too
to come
growing
down
up
with 5.
that I used to hate watch, and it was just because he just killed. Like, I don't care. He could be on like an 0 for April, and then he'd show up in Boston and he'd go like, 6 RBIs. Was Garrett Anderson for the Angels?
Garrett Anderson.
Just for some weird reason, just owned the Boston Red Sox.
Same with Jay Buhner of the Mariners. Jay Buhner had
that's a good
his
one.
best games at Fenway Park.
It's like, what is happening? Like, Garrett Anderson, it's like, okay, thank God we got the Angels. Garrett Anderson hasn't gotten a hit since like 2 months ago. He's like, oh, he's 6 for 6, 5 RBIs. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, this is a good one from Brian. I'm in the same boat. I never saw Jeter live. I went to a Red Sox Yankees game and he was sitting that day. I was so crushed.
Oh,
I went to Jeter's last Fenway game.
Fenway.
I was behind home plate.
Yeah, I never saw him live.
I did get to see him a couple times live. It was awesome.
All right, my 5 are my all-time favorite, Jason Varitek. I mean, Little League World Series champion, College World Series champion, and World Series champion. I have Roberto Clemente. Like you, Harrison, I read a biography on him, and I was just like, boom, hooked. And every clip I see, this guy's throwing an absolute piss missile back to the infield. It's just insane. This 3rd one, I love it just for the adversity he faced, and he's got a no-hitter, Jim Abbott. I think that it's one of the coolest stories in Major League Baseball history. The guy never made excuses. He went out and pitched his ass off every single day. Didn't matter that he only had one hand. It's such a great story.
I remember reading his biography, I want to say, back
cool.
in elementary school, and was blown away by what that guy went through.
Yeah. And the first time I remember watching him pitch, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because it looked different, but you couldn't,
couldn't figure it out.
Right. And I'm just like, man, what's going on? This 4th one is kind of a cop-out because it's a group. But it's the 90s White Sox infield. Robin Ventura, Ozzie Guillen, Joey Cora, Frank Thomas. Those 4 Friday night, you got the White Sox, You know, you watch the Cubs all week, and then you'd have Friday night baseball, and you're like, thanks, WGN. I finally get to watch the White Sox. And it was those four all the time.
How did
I just
how
love
did that
them.
White Sox team not win with that
They
group?
did, but they kept losing to the Blue Jays in the
Oh,
early
that's
90s.
right. That's right. They hit the Blue Jays
Yep.
buzzsaw back then.
Yep. And then
Oh God.
my fifth one is I got to meet him. I went to his hitting camp at SMCC, but it was Mo Vaughn. So Mo Vaughn
Oh, I
was
used to love Mo Vaughn, especially when he rolled his Hummer leaving the strip club.
so bit like, dude.
Yeah, dude, Mo Vaughn. I have aunts that used to own a they like together they owned like a sandwich shop like in Easton, and it was like down the street from where Mo Vaughn lived. And he used to go in there like in the summertime, like every day, like before a night game, and like get a sandwich and then drive into the stadium. And he was like my favorite, like our favorite player. Like my growing up as like 5 years old, like I didn't understand the rules of baseball. Loved Mo Vaughn.
Yeah.
And there was one time, I probably shouldn't be telling this story because it's probably not like a great look for me right now. But I was like 5. I used to just think that like every black guy was Mo Vaughn. I used to be like, oh, like that's Mo Vaun. And my dad's like, that's not Mo Vaun. That's not Mo Vaun. He was like, he was my favorite player.
Yeah, I got stopped in I must have been college. I got stopped in the grocery store by a little old lady who thought I was Jonathan Papelbon.
No,
it was amazing. And then
that's awesome.
One player I left off the list that I probably shouldn't have was Vlad Guerrero. Another guy that I went and saw him at Fenway a couple of times. He was unreal to see live. The stuff that guy did on a baseball field. Whew.
I agree. Vlad Sr. is a great one, and I'll give you a similar to that real quick. We went to a game. I was probably 16, 17, and it was Angels were playing at Fenway, and it was kind of a rain delay in the middle of the game. So, game, fourth inning, whatever. So it's paused. Teams go into the clubhouse. We go, we're staying. It's like a Friday night, so no school. So we're coming down, and so like we're sitting maybe 8, 9 rows behind the third base dugout, so behind the Angels dugout. So we're getting back to our seats, and they're coming back, and the players like warming up. And Vlad Guerrero comes out, and I don't know who he's out, what teammate he's out there with, but he just wants to kind of loosen the gun a little bit. He throws like a couple, maybe from like the second base bag to like the third base bag, just to like loosen up. And then he goes out and he just jogs, and just like he's just going. He's just jogging. So he jogs out to like where Pesky's pole is, and he's standing out there, and he decides to play long toss just to like really loosen it up. And he takes one crow hop, and this ball has zero like just on a line,
you
like
could have hung laundry
head high the whole way to the guy that's standing at like the third base coach's box.
Yep.
It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life. There's no arc to the ball.
No,
one
none.
crow hop and the ball was just on a line the whole way.
There was a vapor trail behind it when he threw it. I mean, it was insane.
It was incredible.
So we our rec department would go down to a Red Sox game every summer for like main day, and friggin' Guerrero's in the concourse as we're taking the tour, and he's like the three of us wide, dude. He's like 6'6", the three of us, just a massive human being. And then you guys know Beth Rowe. We interviewed Jim on our show, at first. And Beth's like, hey, I got tickets for the end of the year. Do you want them? I was like, actually, I can't go, but if you have any playoff tickets, I'd take them. She goes, I can't go to game 3. And I was like, got it. So we're sitting with all the players' wives. But before, like, I go in with my dad, and Guerrero's in the cage on the field. And I go, Dad, can we just stand here for a minute? And he goes, why? And I go, watch. And Guerrero's just like, Sitco sign, Sitco's like.
Well, and not only that, but like
you
could even bounce the ball 4 feet in front of the plate, and he'd still hit it off the Sitco sign. Like,
I mean, God, these balls he was hitting at BP, man, it was like something like my dad had never seen before. It was just like insane.
He always took a terrible line to the ball. He always made it harder than it had to be, but he always caught it. Every throw was a friggin' line shot. There's no arc on it. You could hang laundry off of it, and the sound of contact off his bat was just different. It was just different.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely insane.
For sure.
All right. Yeah, that one was fun to do. We'll throw out another question next week, but excuse me. We're going to head home now. A couple things to tie up here. The Red Sox have announced their opening day starter, and we got Corey Kluber taking the ball on opening day. We all know who Corey Kluber is. He's just 52. So, I mean, Does that mean Sale's not ready? What does that mean?
No, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it's just you give him an
Maybe a
extra day,
matchup?
you give him an extra 2 days to feel comfortable to make sure he's ready to roll. Chris Sale hasn't pitched a meaningful game in like 2 years. So like let's just ease him back into it.
2018.
Listen, the only game that really matters is who's starting the first game of the playoffs. Who starts the first game of a 162 game campaign? Like it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's fair.
I at least the way I look at it, I don't take that as we need to be worried about Chris Sale not being ready yet.
No, and honestly, Corey Kluber, I mean, he's a veteran. He's been around the game a long time. He's still got some stuff. But the Red Sox, they continue to tout Chris Sale's healthy. He's back to full health. He's looked great this spring. His last 2 starts, he's been nasty. Like Chris Sale of old, the back foot slider, high velocity fastball, a lot of movement. He looks like the old Chris Sale, but they are going to handle him very, very carefully this year to make sure that they get as much out of him as they can, and they ease him back into a full season. Because keep in mind, he hasn't pitched a full season since 2019.
Right.
That arm has not seen a lot of action in the last 3 years. So they're going to be very careful with him. They're going to be pitch counts. There's going to be limitations to him. They're going to build him up. So having him not start an opening day, probably makes sense. No need to give him a kind of a stressful, exciting start. Just let him ease into it. But no, Chris Sale cannot ride a bike. Chris Sale should no longer be allowed to ride a bike. Period. Should be in his contract. But the Red Sox are going to be careful with Chris Sale. Starting Corey Kluber is a good idea. It's sad. You see Corey Kluber's opening day starter, and you go, "This is where we're at. Like this is who we're starting opening day." But I get it. Chris Sale should be fine. But to Sean's point, I don't care who starts opening day. Who cares? I care who's starting in the playoffs.
Yeah, no question. If starting Corey Kluber on game 1 of 162 puts the Red Sox on the right path and it makes Chris Sale more comfortable, he doesn't feel like he's pressing a little bit, and if that allows Chris Sale to start game 1 of the postseason, sign me up. Like I'm fine with that. It's such a long season. It doesn't matter who starts game 1. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's fine.
Based on the comments from Chris Sale, he's kind of happy to just enjoy opening day as a regular player and ease back into things. He realizes he's got a long way to go, and he's cool with it. It's not like he's sitting there pouting about it. He understands, and he's going to be ready to go when he's called.
Well, I'll say that he said all the right things in the past 2 years, right? I mean, it's he sat there and he said, like, the fans aren't happy with me. I'm not happy with me. They deserve better. Like I showed up here to be better. So yeah, I mean, it's time to follow it up, but let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not huge news, but like when it dropped, I was still just kind of like, huh? Like, okay.
Yeah, I think everybody expected Sale to be the starter. I think Kluber's a disappointment, but again, it's opening day.
And I think with Brian Bayo, I think he could have been a decent, I mean, yes, he's young, he's a rookie, but I mean, that could have been another option, but he's on the shelf for a little bit, right? I don't think they're going to rush him back.
Well, he threw.
He's back.
Did he throw?
Yeah,
he is back.
He threw yesterday. He threw 2. Yeah. He looked really good yesterday. He threw 2 perfect innings yesterday.
Yeah, he's back.
So he's back. So never mind.
Yeah, he had forearm tightness. They were giving him some rest.
All right, fine. All right, and then the last thing I have is the Braves are starting, since Dansby Swanson has moved on, their next shortstop prospect, Vaughn Grissom, is to start in AAA. What is this? Service time manipulation? Is this Vaughn Grissom not ready? Is this? I mean, I feel personally that it is complete contract manipulation because his free agency would expire after they've lost a couple of these guys that they've extended for a decent amount of time. So that's my feelings on it. Is it 5-0 Mexico?
No. They just stole the bag, but I don't know how he banged him safe.
Crazy slide.
I don't know how he banged him safe.
I don't know how he didn't get the tag on him. Anyways. Oh, he really did miss the tag. Okay. That's a wild slide. So he comes in, he swim moves it dekes the hand, changes the hands, rolls his body over, and the tag actually misses him
Yep.
until he's already
Well,
on the bag.
I don't
Then he
know
comes
because
off,
then
puts back on. Ooh, it's
then he
tough.
comes up. That's going to be tough to overturn because there's so many moving pieces. No pun intended.
Yeah, he got body parts flying everywhere.
Well, he's got it right. Didn't he get the? I don't know.
He's right there.
I don't
and
know,
then
man.
I don't. That's crazy.
He's off. Oh, the hand might be
Yeah,
off.
but-
I don't know. This is crazy.
That's crazy that it was even that close. He was out by like 6 feet.
The same thing with Vaughn Grissom. I don't care, man. If he starts the year at AAA, it doesn't matter. When the Braves make the postseason, he's going to be their starting shortstop. Like
Yeah,
it's probably
yeah.
service time. It's probably manipulation. It's probably to get an extra year out of him. I mean, these front offices have been doing it for years. But
yeah, it's not a baseball
when the
decision.
Braves, right? When the Braves go ahead and win 98 games and they make it to the postseason, Vaughn Grissom's going to start that postseason game at shortstop. So it's
Yeah.
and I think that's probably how the Braves are looking at it too. And Grissom's probably not happy. And if I were him, I probably wouldn't be either. But I get why they're doing it. And until they close that loophole, teams are going to keep doing that.
Yeah, O'Neal Cruz got the same treatment last year. They sent him down for a few months. They brought him up, and then he did his thing. It's absolutely service time manipulation. There's no argument that can be made that Orlando Arcia is a better starting shortstop than Vaughn Grissom is right now.
Right.
So they're doing it strictly to keep his contract, keep his free agency delayed. But to Sean's point, you get to May or June, he's your everyday shortstop.
Yeah,
he has to be. He has to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just thought it was interesting because he's, a highly touted prospect, and they're just.
It just shows you that practice is never going to change. O'Neal Cruz
until they close that loophole,
and
Vaughn Grissom got it this year. Chris Bryant was the most notable, was the most famous case of it, but it happens every year to these guys.
Yeah, agree. All right, do you guys got anything else?
I just one more thing that I saw. I don't know if you guys saw it. University of San Diego was playing the Pacific University or something like that, the way out like the West Coast College Conference. And it was the bottom of the 8th, and they're playing at San Diego. San Diego's down 8-6. San Diego didn't put a single ball out of the infield. They scored 10 runs. It was outrageous. It was just it was like 2 walks, so it was like 2 on, no outs, and then it was a sack bunt that they threw over the head of the first baseman. So then a run comes and scores. Then it's first and third, no outs. Next guy up, another push bunt to the same. They bad coverage, no one covers first base. Bases loaded, no outs. Another bunt because they clearly can't handle bunts. It was crazy. Look it up. Those of you guys that are curious,
it's crazy.
Look it up. It was San Diego versus Pacific University. They scored 10 runs in the bottom of the 8th. They didn't get the ball out of the infield. It was fantastic.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I'm going to look that up for sure. That's going to be on Twitter, right?
I'll throw the link. I'll throw the link in the chat. Barstool's got a good one.
All right.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
Man,
it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the most insane thing you'll ever see. It was these little dubbers, choppers, walk. It was unreal. It was like the first inning of Team USA's game last night.
Times 12
for 10 runs. It just kept going.
It just reminded me. It just reminded you of just how important, in baseball. Not that but sometimes you forget. Just details matter. Like little details matter, and when you're not buttoned up and cleaned up on the details, it's going to come back to bite you. And it when you watch it, it is a team. Pacific is a team that looks like they don't practice fundamentals.
It was painful.
They don't practice the little things. They don't practice communication. They don't practice bunt coverage because it was just so obvious how bad it was. It was just so bad.
It was painful. It really was.
Harrison, you got anything else?
I do, and I'm shocked you don't have this, Nick. So Brown University, Olivia Pichardo made history as the first woman to play in a Division I baseball game.
She did play. She ended up playing. I had it a month ago that she was on the roster, but I didn't know that she actually played.
Yeah. So 2 days ago, she actually played in a game, got in a bat, grounded out to second, I want to say, but she looked good. She had a good at bat. She put the ball in play.
That's awesome.
For sure.
I mean, it's one of those things where she clearly belonged. Like she looked like she belonged on that field. The way she carried herself, the way she came to the plate, the way she handled her at bat, the way she handled the crowd noise. Like people were pumped to see her out there, and it was cool to see her. it was cool to see her get up there, have an at bat, put the ball in play. It wasn't like it was some publicity stunt for Brown University. Like she looks
Right.
like she belongs.
Yep. That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
I thought
because
that was pretty cool.
honestly, think about the stress that she's under. Because the last thing that she
Right.
needs is to go up and go down in 3 pitches and not and have an ugly at bat. Which listen,
And just look
I've had
overwhelmed.
plenty of
Right.
ugly at bats over the years.
Oh, they happen. For
It
sure.
happens.
And she will.
But, like-
She'll have them. It's just
Oh,
good that it wasn't her
absolutely.
first one.
Right. Because as
Yeah.
soon as you have that first one and it's ugly, people are going to be
Mhm.
like, what are you doing? This is a publicity stunt. But for her to go up and have a good solid at bat, like that's important. So that's good.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that. That's awesome.
Kudos to
That's
her,
cool.
man.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. Brian actually made a suggestion. Maybe we will be on tomorrow night. We'll see if we can. I might travel up to Maine and help Harrison get the kids to bed so he can help on
What times is that? A 7 o'clock start?
7 o'clock start.
Yeah.
So,
We should come on a little later so we're live when the game ends.
or we can do that too. So maybe
Yeah,
we
that'd be kinda
come
cool.
on about 8 o'clock, 8:30, whenever, and then
Yep.
we can talk through what had happened before we hop on, and then
Yep.
we'll be there for the ending. So
Yeah,
maybe
so
we'll do that. We'll hop on
try to
around
make that
8,
work.
8:30 tomorrow night. So if you guys want to
I'm
hop
around.
on, talk some WBC with us. Yeah, even if me and Sean start and you want to hop on, Harrison, maybe
Well,
we can do it that way too. So,
Maybe we want to get on more like 9 because that way we'll be on when the game ends closer to 10.
okay. Well, either way.
We can figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So before we go, remember, just like, subscribe. You can share our page. You can share our videos. We're on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts now. So please give us all a listen. Give us 5-star reviews because, why not?
Might as
And
well.
we will see you guys either tomorrow night or next Monday at 8.